Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CLSR. And I'm your host, the counselor. And today we're going to talk about a sensitive topic that many people are still struggling with in 2020. And what I'm talking about is being yourself. One of the hardest things to do is be yourself when you have a lot of pressure on you, when you might not have the support out there. And society, believe it or not, does judge people. But the truth is, a lot of it is a selfish act where people are looking at other people with their biases and their judgments. And you can let it get to your head, but unfortunately, it's a reality out there where people have their say despite earning it. And that means they're saying things that they don't need to be saying, or they're making judgments that they don't need to be making, or they're pointing fingers where they shouldn't be pointing fingers. So what I'm talking about is if you are of LGBTQ community, and I don't even want to say community, I want to say humanity. If you're a human being, you need to understand that you are a human being and that the world that we live in can be quite judgmental. And in order for you to function in that world, you got to feel yourself. You got to respect yourself, appreciate yourself, and love yourself. And that can be hard to do. And one issue that we do need to address is if you are coming out, they say, of the closet, you're going to have to learn how to communicate that, because not everyone's going to be able to accept it on a level. Some will get scared if you come and talk about if you're gay, lesbian, queer, if you're bi, if you're trans, right? If you are questioning your sexuality, if you're transgender and you aren't accepted. And I mean, there are ways to communicate, and you have to support yourself, but there are certain strategies you need to do if you are coming out of the closet. And one of the best things that you can do is follow some of the strategies the counselor is going to talk about today, because we live in a very challenging world. And there's certain cultures that hate you because of who you are. There's certain family members. It might be parents that might not accept you. It might be friends that might judge you. There's society, social media messages that can discriminate against you or make you feel less than. However, what we want to say is people are people. And despite history, we still have judgments. Whether it's racism, sexism, there's judgments out there, and they do exist. So we have to sometimes learn how to navigate our way through society. And one way we do that is we start with family. See, if you have family and you need to come out with your family, you're going to have to take some time first and realize that if you are coming out to talk about your sexuality or who you are as an individual, this can be a very stressful time. It could be an unnerving time. It could even be somewhat of an exciting time. However, we do need to know that you're going to need to take some time to reflect on who you want to tell and what you want to say. Then you can plan to write a letter, talk on the phone or in person if you want to talk face to face. Choose a good time to talk and place to be, right? When you have to say what you have to say. When you're ready to have an open and honest conversation. Now, I also have to say that one of my concerns is people with their religions. And sometimes religions could really dictate certain norms in society. They have their ideals on what is right and what is wrong. And I find it's somewhat challenging. I mean, yeah, there's certain religions that are starting to open up. However, the truth be told, they can be very conforming religions. And you have to be very careful, because sometimes people, how they relate in religions is, if the religion doesn't accept me, I'm not acceptable, which is not true. There are different religions. If you choose to follow a religion, that's one thing. But I do say that we need to be careful. All right? If you want to talk face to face with someone, choose a good time and place and be ready. All right. And make sure that after you do come out, make sure that you are kind to yourself and that you lean on your support system. And we're going to be talking about how we go about coming out in this world in 2020. How do we be ourselves? How can we be good to ourselves? How can we take care of ourselves? And if you don't have a support system, what are you going to need to do? And this is why we're having this conversation. Because first you have to decide what you're going to tell and how you're going to tell some family member or friend if you have to discuss your sexuality. So you got to make sure first you're ready to discuss your sexual orientation. It can feel liberating to speak your truth to others. However, if you're ready to live fully as yourself, you're ready to come out. And if you're not confident in how you identify, you might want to wait to tell your family members. Make sure that you can comfortably say to yourself, I'm gay and proud of who I am before you tell your family. Make sure you are well comfortable. If you are having trouble figuring out how you identify, that's okay. Try going to a helpful website like the one the PFL AG flag. Okay, and just go on that website. That organization has some great resources for members of the LGBT community and their friends and family members. You can also talk to a gay person that you know and ask if they could share their coming out experience with you. And if you're not really familiar with a gay person who has the same views as you or feelings as you, then you're going to have to do your work. Go to the communities, have some discussions, find some programs. Okay, but make sure that you do write down what you want to say. Prepare yourself because you're going to get different reactions. All right, it's understandable that you might be nervous before you come out, and that's okay. Take some time to plan out what you want to say. All right, but you have to have a certain comfort level. Jot down what you want to say, word for word, and just some main points. You could write down an opening statement like, Dad, I have something important to tell you. I'm gay, and I'm very happy that I can be open and honest with you. You can also list some key words to include like, I'm proud, I'm excited, I'm nervous, I might even be scared. All right. Try writing down how you might respond if this person says something negative because it could happen, right? You could try. I was really hoping for your support. If you're not able to offer that right now, maybe we could talk about it again in a few days. This takes courage and it can be risk taking because you don't know how that person may respond. And the truth is, many of you do know how a family member responds to something like that because some of the comments they might have said over the years, you might get the impression. A lot of you who are in families have those family members who are very biased, very judgmental, and they discriminate. They even use comments, negative connotations and comments towards people of the LGBTQ community. So you know right there what they might think. However, you still might have to deal with it. Either way, I've known clients who've gone for years who are afraid to address their parents about this issue that they were having with them. And it wasn't the person's issue, it was the family's issue because it was really about acceptance. And we need to understand that all of us on some level need some acceptance. So this is really about you accepting yourself. And you coming out to other people is not getting them to accept you. You have to accept yourself first. You have to understand that you matter. You're valuable. And you should be loved like everyone, no matter the color of your skin, the gender, your size, your sexual preference, your sexual orientation. You are an individual that needs to be loved. And you don't necessarily need a religion to tell you that. You are a person. And if you can understand that and appreciate that, and you can love yourself despite what other people say. And remember, if you're around negative people, get away from those negative people. Go where you feel good, where you're not going to be judged, and there are places you can go and you can live your life. Because sometimes we live in communities that are very judgmental. All right. However, I'm strongly recommending that you choose one person to tell first. You don't have to tell multiple people at once unless you really want to. Right? Think about the people in your family and consider who is supportive and understanding. You might want to tell them first. They can serve as your support system when you are ready to tell more people. Like, of course, it's fine if you want to tell both parents at once. But if you feel more comfortable with one of them, you can talk to them separately. All right. I know that I had a client who had a mother who was very sympathetic. However, the father was quite opposed to them, like, and their views and how they felt about gays and lesbians and transgender. They were very vocal. So that person chose to speak to the mother. And sometimes in some families, the father could be quite domineering, and they could be the stronger voice in a relationship. So you got to make sure that when you tell your family members that you are sure about who you are, and you understand that you are a wonderful person, and you coming out and sharing is you want them to accept, and you have to take the risk that they're not going to accept. Okay. So if you choose to tell a sibling or a kind aunt or uncle first, it's really completely up to you, right? And who you're comfortable with. All right. So if you're not really comfortable speaking face to face, write a letter. If you're feeling pretty uncertain, consider writing this letter in private. Make sure you keep it to yourself, right? At first, get everything down. A personal note for a family member allows you to express yourself without dealing with the anxiety of a face-to-face conversation. It will also give them time to process your news privately. Another benefit of letters is that you have time to edit and make sure that you've said exactly what you want to say. And make sure that you consider another option, which is to talk over the phone if you don't want to speak in person. Right? Try not to be texting these messages. Try to speak to them. Okay? And consider waiting to come out if you don't think you'll be supported. That is important. Just consider waiting a little bit. Sometimes that does help a lot, right? It's great that you want to be open and honest with your family members. However, hold off on telling someone if they've given you signals that they are not accepting. While it's great to want to live your truth, it's also important that you prioritize your feelings. Coming out to someone who may make you feel bad might not be worth it. Avoid telling someone if they frequently make homophobic remarks, and they have openly said hurtful things about gay people, and they have threatened not to support you if you come out as gay. Right? Those are people that you have to understand that they have their views and you have yours, and yours are not exchangeable. Right? So you have to take care of yourself. Make sure you have options if you need to change your living situation. If you think that your family members might react negatively, make sure to plan for how that might impact you. If you live with your parents, make sure that you have an alternative living plan lined up in case your parents kick you out. Hopefully that won't happen, but it's best to be prepared. Ask a friend or other family member if you can stay with them if the conversation doesn't go well. If your parents support you financially, consider waiting to tell them until you can support yourself. Not everyone's going to take the news right. And talking face to face could be one of the biggest challenges. But if you choose a time and a place where you will feel comfortable, this is important. It's important to have this conversation, and it deserves time and respect. Pick a time when you and your family members won't have to rush off to do something else. You should also pick a location where you feel comfortable and confident. Like, don't try to talk to your dad while he's busy cooking dinner. Instead, say, Dad, We need to talk. I have something I want to talk about. Do you have time to sit down with me after dinner? Right? It could be in your living room, right? A cozy, quiet coffee shop. Might be some place to talk where, you can gauge their reaction and work through it. And make sure that when you are delivering your message, you need to focus on positives. This isn't the time to beat around the bush. You don't want the other person to get confused or impatient. State what you want to say and do it confidently, including a positive statement which will help you feel good about what you're saying. And it will let the other person know, it'll let them know for sure that this is good news. Try saying, like, I want you to know that I'm gay. I'm letting you know because I'm ready to explore dating and I'm really excited about that. Be clear about who they can tell. Well, you might be really excited to share this with your family. It's fine to not want the whole world to know. Tell your family members who they may or may not tell. Remember, it is completely up to you. Your comfort is number one. It's top priority. You can say, I'd really appreciate it if you keep this to yourself. I'll let you know if and when it's okay to talk to someone else. And another option is just, it's okay to tell Aunt Mamie, but please keep this between the two of us. All right? Now, you're going to have to allow them to ask some questions. You probably had some time to figure out what your sexual identity means, but your family members might be taken aback. It's okay for them to ask questions. Try to calmly answer them if you feel comfortable doing so. They're probably genuinely curious, not trying to be rude, but they're going to have some questions. If your brother asks you if you're sure you're gay, you can say something like, yes, I'm very comfortable identifying as gay. Do you have questions about exactly what that means? Right? You're going to have to be somewhat assertive, and make sure you're clear. And this isn't something that you can turn away from. This is something you're confident in. You have to be yourself. You might even have to take it a step further. You might have to give them some resources. Your family members might not know how to support you. They might also be confused about how this could impact you and your family. Let them know that it's okay to need some help understanding everything. Direct them towards some helpful resources, like the website PF, right? LAG, that website. You can also get some resources, right, that you find online so that you can give them something to read over, to reflect on. If there's an LGBT support center in your area, stop by, pick up some brochures that can be helpful to family members. Like, you're going to have to do some work because it's not about your understanding, it's about them. You know who you are. Tell your parents what you need if they react negatively. All right. If your family member doesn't offer you support, you'll understandably feel bad, right? If they say something negative or hurtful, remind yourself that you are important and that you are good enough just the way you are. Then tell your parents what you need in the moment. You could try saying, look, I really need to know that you love and support me. This is making me upset, and I'm going to take a walk. So please respect my need for space. And I know you're upset, but I still love you. Okay? Um, and if you're going to have to do this, this could happen. If this situation gets out of control and it seems like it's escalating quickly where the person may be getting aggressive, and yes, it will present itself in certain situations. You're going to have to walk away if the situation becomes unsafe. Hopefully, however, your family is supportive and understanding. And if they react negatively, however, you might need to remove yourself from the situation. If you are feeling overwhelmed, it's totally fine to take a break. A situation doesn't have to be dangerous for you to walk away. Go somewhere else if your family member is threatening to physically harm you. or using that abusive and hateful language, or screaming at you, or making you feel unsafe. I mean, it's a terrible thing to do, but it does happen in certain families. And it's unnerving, it's scary, and it's going to make you question yourself when they put you in that position. But you got to pull it together and get out of there and understand that it's just not the right time to deal with that. All right? And you just make sure you give the other person time to react. If you don't receive immediate support, it's normal to be upset, but that's that's one thing. You right? Just know you didn't do anything wrong. Right? After all, understand it's not your issue, it's theirs. But try to be empathetic to the other person. It can be hard at times. They might be confused, upset, or startled. Allow them time to process their feelings. Try not to take it personally. If they say that they need some space, even though you're hurt, you're going to have to let them do that, because it is normal for people to want to take a few days or weeks to work out their feelings. While it might seem hard, give them some space. That is one of the best things you're going to have to do. And try to keep the dialogue open for the future. It doesn't mean that you need to be feeling like it's the end of the world or the end of the conversation, unless you want it to be. Remember, the process is about you and what makes you feel good. After your initial conversation, reach out and let them know that you'd like to keep communicating. You can say that you're happy to answer more questions later, or that you could use their support as you continue the process of telling people. Do not feel the need to do this if your family member was not kind to you. It's okay to do what's best for you, even if that means not talking to the person for a while. Reach out to local groups for support. Coming out is a really emotional process. Even if your conversation goes well, you might still need some additional support. Look online, as I said earlier. Look for some support groups. It could be in your school. Find it. I know the public school system has a rainbow community, so there's certain you might have to call the main office and get a hold to see, hey, what do you have to support me, right? Because it is challenging working in schools and working with kids, especially young kids who are coming up who don't understand. I'm not saying you'll go out there and dress, but this is something that is real. This is a life. And is there any perfect time to tell? No. But there are better, more convenient times to discuss what's going on with you, with others. So you might have to lean on supportive friends and family. You're going to have to let them know that you need some extra kindness during this time. If you have already come out to them, you can say, I told my sister I'm gay and it didn't go well. Do you have time to talk it out with me? You can get support from others even if they don't know that you're gay. Just say, I'm going through some tough stuff. Will you take a walk with me to help me relax? Practice self-care by being kind to yourself. Coming out can cause you to feel like you're on a roller coaster of emotion. These feelings are quite normal. Just be nice to yourself. Be good to yourself while you're going through this journey. Remind yourself every day that you are proud of who you are and that you are a valuable person. You can also take care of yourself by spending time with supportive people, playing with the pet, reading a good book, spending time in nature, right? I will say that um, all of us in our family, somewhere along, have somebody who's might not be discussing or come out of the closet, but there's someone in the family who has the same feelings as you, but they might not have expressed that or come out because it's not viewed as acceptable. One important thing is for you to accept who you are. And even though they can't do it. They might be harder on you, and it's weird, but they might be harder on you because they're fighting it themselves, and you might need to look at that. Whether it's lesbian, whether they've uh, communicated how they felt even about their own feelings, or they've suppressed them for years. Be careful. You don't want to own other people's issues. So when you accept yourself, and we're going to talk more about how you accept yourself. See, I just find that the world that we live in, there are wonderful people out there, and you got to find them. And if you look out there, there are a lot of people who push back. It's just something with us human beings. It's when someone's different than us, people hate for different reasons, whether it's their weight, whether it's the role that they play in society or how they're viewed. Uh, there's just so much pressure for all people, and for people who are of the LGBTQ community. It's You see it's out there, but it could be like racism. And just because it's out there and people are aware, that doesn't mean everyone accepts it. And you got to realize that you aren't going to be accepted by everyone, and that's okay. I think we want the world to accept us all, every participant, and it's going to be hard. They're going to be hard moments, but I do want you to know that you're not alone. Am I advocating you to be you? 110% I'm advocating you to be you. And despite what people tell you or how they make you feel, demand your rights. There's so many places that are ignorant out there, institutions that are lacking, and there's a lot of work to be done, and it continues to be a struggle in society. There's wonderful organizations out there that they're not making it a big deal. They let people live their lives. And you know what? The world is changing, and that's good. There's positive out there that we have to accept, that we understand there are changing, but some aren't changing fast enough, but there are changes. However, what you could start with is you. Own you. Don't try to make anybody something that they're not. Work on you and be proud and appreciate and value you. So, judgments aside, as people, we need to understand that there's a lot of change that's needed in every area, especially this area. And when you love yourself and you accept yourself, that is the best that you can do. And when you have people that love you and care for you for who you are, who understand and appreciate you, stick with those people. Understand that we all need support systems. You could go it alone, but if you don't have someone in your immediate family, you're going to have to go out and find them. And you need to be around positivity. Stop trying to go and jump through hoops to be someone that you're not. And some of us, hey, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be challenging. Some of us have got ourselves into relationships and we fought it. I mean, I know of clients who've actually married, had children, and they didn't, for a number of reasons, they did not come out because of societal pressure. They were uncertain. They didn't want to be judged. They didn't know if they could handle it. They did have not completely accepted it. They were still, going through the motions, and they knew some of the consequences. See, some of the consequences can be challenging and scary. And just knowing that there are major consequences just to even talking about it or coming out, people don't do it. There's certain cultures, it's sad, but people don't. But I will say that they're coming out more and more. And watch what people say. Be careful on what people say, because people say a lot of things. Oh, I got your back. Oh, I'm with you. Come chill with me. But at the same time, they give you the impression that they're supporting you, but it's not what they say, it's what they do. And it's what they say. But their actions must equate their words. They must be genuine. If you need people who are supportive, make sure they're genuine. Make sure you're not giving excuses for anyone. You're not just hanging because this person is more accepting than the other person, but they're still making comments. Watch your negative influences. Be careful with that. And I mean, if you live in smaller towns and you're struggling with it, and you're not being accepted for who you are, maybe you need to move to a bigger town where the focus isn't so much on you and your sexual orientation, on who you are as a person. Maybe when you move to a bigger city, maybe there's more open mindedness, there's more resources, communities, people that you could talk to and live your life without this cloud hanging over. Sometimes in smaller towns, it could be a challenge. Um, but diversity is important for you as well. And understanding that it's not just about the people who are looking at other people and pointing fingers. Sometimes it's about just living your life and understanding that you can go anywhere you want, but just be yourself and be aware. Awareness is everything. Be aware when you go places, okay? Just understand that not everybody feels the way you do, which is everyone knows that. However, just be aware and take care. So the counselors had a very good conversation with you, and I want to say you are a human being and you need to understand that you are valued and you need to value yourself. So I want you to be like the wise old bird. Whatever you're thinking, think again and again until you think the way you need to think about yourself. Don't be hard on yourself, right? If you're not feeling it, go where you're feeling good about yourself. Do things that make you feel good. Stand up for yourself, okay? It's not easy, but it's doable. And you do have good platforms out there that you could connect to. So do that, people. All right. So I want you to take care of yourself. We had a really good conversation. And you know what? Until next time, be like the wise old bird and spread the word.